Hello, puppy. Mwah. You ready to get unbothered? We can do a sound check. Grouch. Let's get unbothered.
Everything bothers him.
He's unbothered.
He calls it unbothered, but that's what's cute because everything bothers him. He's bothered. I'm a botherina.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Unbothered by Ty Rivera. That's right, it's Unbothered by Ty Rivera. I'm your host, Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Baby girl is not in the mood today. I don't know why. She was taking a little bit of a nap, but you know, this is one of the few jobs she really has when it comes down to it. Is she's got to do a quick twirl every time we start Unbothered once a week, and that's all her job is. There's really nothing else that I have her doing around here. Clearly, she's not able to drag me in the Iditarod. She's she can do a couple of services, honestly, though. She's a handy little dog in a lot of ways. Not quite like my Bijou, but we're not going to compare them today. What we are going to do is I'm going to talk about how usually I do this podcast with no edits, and I appreciate the people that actually watch the podcast. But I try to do it with no edits, but today I've got to do a quick edit because I'm making my dinner right now, and I'm having a super, super late dinner. Right now it's 1:43 a.m., and what I have to do is I'm waiting for my air fryer to warm up, and then I'm going to make myself some chicken that's like marinating in barbecue sauce and baked beans, and I bought macaroni salad from the grocery store. I love a grocery store macaroni salad. I do have to admit, I also love a buffet macaroni salad. I'm just a macaroni salad fan, especially when I don't have to make it, which I have made macaroni salad before, and it's been good. But that's not really what I want to talk about. I'm just warning you guys that there are going to be at least 2 edits in this video, because I've got to, as soon as the air fryer goes off, I've got to go load up my chicken in there, and then from there we should be pretty much good. But here's the deal, you guys. I'm tired of everybody trying to rip us off. That's one thing I'm going to tell you that I'm really sick of. And I bring this up because I had an incident this week that really got on my nerves, because I don't think I told you guys, but one of the fobs went dead on my in my car, for my car. And so I have one, obviously, that I use primary, and then I have a backup. And really, I don't care too much about when I use which one. I use them interchangeably. Whichever one is the one that I can find is the one I'm going to use. And I want to tell you guys that really quick. I was grounded until just a few minutes ago, and I really do mean that. And a lot of friends think that I'm weird because that's one of the things I do. But I literally ground myself sometimes when I know that I have things to do and I've been procrastinating. And this was one of the things that I've been procrastinating on for my entire life. So it might sound cheesy to say it, but this is one that really has been a lifelong problem, and I felt so good when I was close to completing the task that I literally shook. You know how you shake sometimes? Do you guys do that? Like sometimes you get so like full of enthusiasm that you just have to kind of let it out with a little bit of a shake, and that's what literally happened. And it doesn't happen for me often that I go through that, but that's literally what happened as I was, because I don't know if you guys remember the last time that I said that I cleaned my place. Not because I cleaned this place ridiculously. I swear I was not meant to be a maid, but I definitely was meant to be a housewife. joking. But I'm meant to be a husband, but I need a housewife, but it's got to be a man. But what I was trying to get at is, If you guys remember when I was talking I think it was like 2 months ago now, and I told you guys, because, that's when I had the different setup where I was in my work chair and I would have the counter of the kitchen behind me. And what happened was there was that corner of the counter that's closest to the door, and I told you guys that I really needed to clean that spot up. Everything else was clean in my apartment, but that spot had receipts, and some of them I needed to file, and I had done a good job of getting rid of the bulk of it, but I just had the leftovers, and I had two things that I really, really just, in my mind, I couldn't get rid of. Because one of them was a legal pad that I needed to go through and transcribe a couple things off of. I don't even know if transcribe is the right word for that. I believe that's what it would be. But I needed to take some of the information and put it in my notes app rather than having it on an actual legal pad. And I've had that pad since I was in Austin, maybe even before that, since I was in Vegas, maybe. But, it hasn't had the same amount of contents because I would rip things off as I would go through it. But it was a mental block, and I could not get myself to get rid of this pad. I just kept giving myself every excuse to not get rid of this pad. And I kind of realized what a part of my problem was as I was doing this, because I made it a point to do it, and I would not let myself actually record this or even start my dinner until I actually got this task done. Because we're talking about, I said maybe 2 months ago or a month ago that I was talking about doing that, and I said that in that video. But like I said, I had this mental block where I just wouldn't let myself throw this pad away, right? So I finally and this is gonna sound crazy, but it's literally what I did. At a point, I started, I wouldn't say yelling, but I had a very stern, vocal, out loud, talk with myself as I was doing it. Because what I do every time, because I've gotten better at my pack rat ways, and really I've gotten better at all around organization. And I was getting good at that in Austin, but I always will stop myself. It's like a self-sabotaging thing that I have to admit to, and that's why I'm being this honest. You guys are my accountability buddies, which I find that term silly. A friend of mine told me, well, really I find it more cute than silly, but a friend of mine told me that term a long time ago, and I really like it, even though I say it in a silly way. But you guys are my accountability buddies, because there's really nothing and nobody to keep me accountable other than myself and my little puppy to a certain degree. I try to get things done for her, but I don't really have anybody to keep me to accountable. And so that's part of what I use this podcast for, is to make sure that I'm being the person. Every week that I tell you guys what it is I'm going to do, I have a horrible memory. So I forget what I say exactly. But what I do remember is when I watch it with you guys. Because right now, I just go stream of consciousness. It's almost like not... It's almost like not thinking about what I'm saying. I just talk. And I know me, and I know that, I tell people all the time, people that really know me in real life, I don't lie to people because, and it's not because I wouldn't like to. Because I've known people in my life that were good liars, and they have these fantastical stories in some cases, and people will actually believe the stories, and they're good at it. And I've always been one of those people that sees through it. And a lot of times, if people aren't completely pathological, which I've known a few people like that, but if they're not completely pathological, they know that I see what they're doing, and I tell them, I bust them, but just between me and them. I don't call them out publicly, because nothing they're doing is malicious. It's all kind of just I don't know why these adults make things up. I really don't. I've tried to examine that in my head. But anyway, I wish that I could be a liar. I unfortunately can't because I have a terrible memory. That's the worst thing about me. And so when I tell you guys about my terrible memory, that is 100% true. And anybody that really knows me in real life gets that, and they don't hold me at all responsible for silly little things. You know, like, of course you can hold me responsible for actually things that matter, but like when they have to remind me what it is they're talking about over and over, if I ask them the same question like a couple weeks apart, they'll just tell me again because everybody knows I have a horrible memory. And so my memory is so bad that I'll talk stream of consciousness, and I know that I can trust myself, and so I just let myself say whatever I want, and then I actually am just as surprised about a lot of the things as I say as maybe some of you are when I watch the video with you guys on Sunday. I'm usually like, oh, okay, yeah. I remember. I know that's what I was feeling. I know that's what it was, but I don't remember the specifics of what I was talking about on that particular day. But to get back to my point is, so I really do believe in using you guys, or using our situation as a way to hold myself accountable. And so I really have to be honest when I say that I was so disappointed in myself because I just keep because you know the way it works. Like, I would leave that notepad up there, that legal pad up there with just a couple of receipts on it. And when I talked to you guys a couple months ago, I said, I'm going to take care of that. I just need to go through it. So now here we are a couple months later, and I still hadn't gone through it. And you know how these things work in a lot of cases. It doesn't just stay the way it is. It piled up with more receipts. And granted, there's some receipts that I do legitimately need for taxes. And then there's some receipts that I just hold on to as like my old pack rat ways kind of trying to creep back in. And so I told myself, because like I started to do this, right? And then all of a sudden I realized I need to file some of these things. Some of these things are not just going in the manila folder where I put tax receipts for that particular year. Some of these need to actually be filed. Like, 'cause there's a few things that were like a card that's a memory, you know, so I put that in a memory box that I have. Yes, I'm gay enough that I have a memory box. You know, and so there's different places that this stuff needs to go. And so there were points where I was thinking, I'll get to that later. And so finally, I just really kind of went off on myself. And I don't feel at all crazy for it because I didn't get like loud, obnoxious, whatever. I just was very stern with myself. And I was like, this is what you do every time. You want your life to be better, but you keep giving yourself excuses to not do things the way that you need to do them. You say that you want things to improve, but then you go back to doing the exact same thing again and coming up with every reason why you can't do it. And then that leaves that there, and then you get to carry it over for another couple of months. And the fact is, you're not getting any younger. And you're either going to eventually turn into the person that you say you're going to turn into, or you're going to continue to be a liar to yourself. And yeah, I read myself. It's being honest with yourself is much worse than having a relationship with somebody that's writing you, because you can go for a drive. You can go to another room. I followed myself from one room to the next, continuing to read myself in a very productive way about what it was I needed to do. And so once I get to the filing cabinet and I realize that my filing cabinet is a mess, because that's where you can really be a pack rat. So then I went through and I got rid of this file that I wish I had taken a picture or a video of it, but it was thick. And it was all my records from when I lived in the first apartment that I lived in Vegas, in the more recent time that I lived there. So 2017. And I lived there for 4 years, 3 or 4 years. But either way, yeah. And I just kept everything there. Like, it was all in a file. It was every money order, because I save, when I'm living at a particular place, I'll save the correspondences, like when they leave things on the door that say we're going to be coming in at this particular time. I don't know. Well, I know why. Because if there ever ends up being a legal problem and I needed to know those dates, with my particularly bad memory, it's important for me to have record of these things. So I just put them in a file. And so I had this really thick file because I lived there for 4 years, and it was a bunch of stuff that I just didn't need. And then there were a couple other folders that had far less stuff. And you know, since a lot of that stuff is like my lease and there, I can't just, and I'm not going to sit there and go through every paper. I know everything in there needs to be thrown away. I know that for a fact, you know, but I also know that my name is on a lot of that stuff, and you know, all sorts of personal information is on that sort of stuff because it's my lease and, you know, my exact signature. And so I just had to sit there and shred every single one of those, you know, which I have a shredder, of course. And so I'm just sitting there shredding each of these, and I can do like 3 or 4 pages at a time. I think I need to buy a bigger shredder though, maybe one that does like 10 pages at a time or something like that. But I'm just, you know, shredding all this stuff, and it felt really good to do that as well. And so I haven't gone through my whole filing cabinet yet, but I went through about half of it and got rid of, you know, because there's only so much stuff that I need to have in a filing cabinet anyway. And so I was able to go through like half of my filing cabinet, and I was very proud of myself that I actually was able to get this done, you know, and not have to come up with excuses. But that was not everything that I needed to do as far as continuing to organize. And while I'm doing this, I'm telling myself, I was like, this is exactly why you were avoiding doing this, is because you didn't want to get to this part. And you knew that you were going to have to get to this part because your filing cabinet, which is supposed to be a tool to keep you organized, is completely disorganized, and you dread going in there because you haven't cleaned it out. Well, nobody's going to come along and clean that out for you. Even if you were to hire a cleaning person, you're not going to be able to get a cleaning person that knows what you actually need and don't need from your filing cabinet. And so I just got rid of a bunch of stuff that I really didn't need to hold on to, and it felt so good to do it. But I was still grounded, you know, but I had to go to the grocery store really quick because I don't know if you guys do fuel points. I do fuel points. With gas prices right now, I'm not trying to pay full price for gas. And our grocery store here in Arizona, the main one a lot of us go to, I would say the biggest local chain, is called Fry's Food and Drug. And so I go to Fry's, and they have this deal where on Fridays you get 4 times the fuel points, because you know they have gas stations that are on site with a lot of their grocery store locations, and so you get 4 times the fuel points. So however much money you spend, you know, if you spend $100, then that's 400 fuel points, and every 100 fuel points is 10 cents off gas. And so like last month I got like a full $1, a little over $1 off from just my fuel points. And because I always go on Friday, I'll buy stuff throughout the week, and that stuff counts too, but it's not 4 times the fuel points. Give me just a second, I gotta go load my chicken up. Okay, so I got myself a grape soda, and I made Kool-Aid earlier, and I also forgot to tell you guys that I made myself cornbread, which I'll give you guys a quick tip for the grocery store. Famous Dave's, that is the cornbread that is really good, like if you want just a quick mix box, if you don't want to do the full-on Albert's cornbread, if you just want a quick mix. I've tried the Dolly Parton, not so great. I mean, like, it's not terrible, it's just not really good like Famous Dave's, but do what you want. Anyway, what I was talking about is, so I finally got everything completely done from give me a second, this baby wants to come up. You know what I don't know about baby girl is she's an incredible jumper. She's really good at jumping, but for some reason, she never taught herself to jump on the couch. And that wasn't something I taught Bijou. Bijou just learned on her own. And I'm not comparing them right now. I'm just saying that, it's weird to me that Bijou completely taught herself how to jump on the couch. And baby girl, for as good as she is at jumping, because, she'll do verticals. She definitely does jump straight up. Like, when she's excited to see me, she jumps straight up, I take her over to my parents' house sometimes. Well, she goes to my parents' house every time I do, because they have a little dog that she plays with. Egwin is his name. Egwin is his name. I had to edit out because that soda made me burp. And, I'm really weird about those kinds of sounds. Like, I don't edit this podcast full on, but I will make a mental note of when that happened, and I'll find it and I'll delete it so you guys don't have to hear that, because it's just that's one thing that I was really raised not to be at all. Like, loud burps I'll do in front of my friends when we're being silly with each other, that kind of thing. But for the most part, I just will not do that, because I was raised to believe that that's not, like, you should have some level of class, and you shouldn't just be a complete pig. And I'm not judging other people that do this, because I know plenty of people that don't have a hang up about burping or anything like that. I'm just saying that so ingrained in me that I just really am not cool with being that guy. And one thing I don't do is, I'm not even fully comfortable saying it because I just find it so gross sometimes, is farting. Like, people think it's funny to fart, and I just do not. And when people fart around me, if we're in one of those situations where it's like a bunch of guys, especially a bunch of straight guys, and that's just the kind of thing they're doing to be silly or whatever, I just go along with it, not to make waves. Like, I'm not going to do it myself. But I don't gross them out, or, or act like I'm grossed out by them. I just let it be what it is. But I just do not like it. And if I'm in a one-on-one circumstance with somebody and they fart, I'm just like, no, let's not be those people. So, but that's just me getting sidetracked. But anyway, my point is, I will edit that out. But what I was trying to get at is, I really am proud of myself that I finally got that done. Like, I got rid of that notebook. I made myself throw it away, rip up what I need to rip up and throw it away before I would let myself record. And so now I'm completely done with that. I'm completely freed of that task, and I can do other things. And today was my all the way around just good cleaning day. Like, I did a good thorough, once a week I'll do where I completely, clean the floors, because I have to sweep every day, probably twice a day, honestly, is what I sweep. And little spot sweeps here and there, because I have flooring and not carpet. I hate carpet. I have a rug, but I don't like carpet. And so I have flooring, so I have to sweep regularly, and I was really proud of myself. But one of the things I want to tell you guys about the key fob, that's what I wanted to get to, is because I'm so tired of people trying to cheat us on everything. And it really did bother me, because I needed to what happened was my key fob went dead more than once. And it was the same one each time. And I was kind of annoyed because I had the battery replaced at Batteries Plus. And so there's this service, or this extra, it's an upsell, where at Batteries Plus, or at least the locations here in Arizona and Phoenix, you can pay an extra $10 or something like that when you buy a battery, like for a key fob, and then they put you in the system, and that battery has a lifetime warranty. And so what happened was, I had the battery replaced on my key fob, that particular key fob, because my car wasn't sensing it. And I don't know if you guys ever had a key fob go out on you, but what happens is your car completely will not start up. I ended up finding a quick workaround that will get you out of a dire situation sometimes, but don't rely on it, because once that battery goes even more dead or the key fob dies even more, it doesn't work anymore. But you can put your keys in the center console, or your key fob in the center console, and for some reason that will allow it to connect, and that bailed me out one time when I got stuck at a restaurant. I was so mad because I had my food with me and I was so ready to eat, you know, and that was a day where I'd really been working and I was just so hungry and I wasn't in the mood for anything, and I grabbed the wrong key because I knew that fob was having problems, but at that time I still thought it was a battery. So in my mind I'm thinking, I got to get this battery replaced, you know, that's got to happen. And so I'll get that taken care of in a couple of days or whatever. And so, but I left my key fob at that time. I left that particular key fob in the place where I usually use the one that I use regularly, the working key fob. I swear I make things so confusing sometimes because of the way that I talk, but you know what? It is what it is. So I grabbed the wrong key fob and I went to the restaurant and I wanted to just get to go. I was having a Euro salad that day. Love Euro salad. And gyro salad. Gyro. Gyro. I don't know how to say it. But anyway, so I grabbed the wrong fob and I was so ready to eat my food, and I come out of the restaurant and I get in the car and it will not start. And then I went through it with ChatGPT for a few minutes, which felt like an eternity. And then I called my dad and was like, can you stop by my place and get my key and bring me the spare or the actual primary key? And he was ready to. And then ChatGPT was like, you know, you can try putting the key in the console and see if that gives you the connection that you need. And so I did it, and luckily I was able to get myself home, and then I put that fob in a particular place. And I pay for, because you know, I drive a Dodge, a Charger. It's the first car that I ever had that I really, really was in love with. You know, I mean, like when I got my Honda, it was just to go on the road and put a lot of miles on, and that was the plan from the beginning with my Honda. But I always told myself I wanted a Dodge Charger, either that or a Challenger. But the Charger has 4 doors, and I just like the body style better than the Challenger, even though I like the Dukes of Hazzard idea. But I just was like, you know, I bought a Charger, and so I paid for the extended warranty, which is through Mopar, you know, which is where Dodge comes from, or Dodge's parent company, or however you would say that. And so I pay for that, you know, because we're past the regular warranty part, and so I have to pay for this warranty, and it was, I don't remember, like $4,000 or something like that. But they hit me up afterwards, you know, after it was, my regular warranty was done, and they were like, okay, well, this one will cover you for this many more years and whatever else. And it covers all these things, and it's, you know, it's supposed to be like a no headache deal. That's what they sell you on, is you don't want to deal with headaches. You don't want to be haggling with people. You don't want to be shopping around for the best prices. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to have to deal with mechanics that are going to use parts that aren't from actual Dodge or from Mopar. So you want to get this. This is what you want to get. So, you know, I see the logic in it, you know. And then a friend of mine who sells cars that I really do trust, he was telling me, because I hit him up about it, and he was like, I was like, should I go with Mopar? Because obviously they tried to sell me one when I bought my car. And I was like, should I go with Mopar, or should I go with whatever the one that they were trying to sell me at the dealership was? And my friend was like, and it was a Dodge dealership, and my friend was like, go with the Mopar, you know. He was like, Mopar has the best warranty in the business. So I was like, okay. And so I went ahead and got it. And that was back in like October Yeah, it was in October. And so I wasn't sure because I first thought it was, like I said, the battery. And so I went to Batteries Plus a couple of times. And like the third time I had to go to Batteries Plus, I was kind of annoyed with them because it hadn't occurred to me that maybe my fob wasn't working anymore. And I thought it was the battery kept dying on me. And so, but I wasn't at all bitchy with the guy working there. But in my head, I was like, I don't know why I paid for this if the battery is just going to keep dying anyway. Like, are these batteries bad? What are they doing? And so I talked to the guy about it, and I told him, and the guy was like, well, it sends signal to the car all the time, so that could be wearing the battery down. And I was like, yeah, but if you look at the last time, like the time frame of when I'm having to get new batteries from you guys, it was like, I was here like 3 weeks ago. And so it's like these batteries definitely should last longer than that. And he was like, yeah, they definitely should. And so he was like, try this. And so he put a brand new battery in. And he was like, now go ahead and take only this key and see how that works. And I was like, okay, it's not detecting it. It's still not detecting it. And he was like, yeah, the circuit board could be fried on your fob. And if that's what the deal is, the batteries aren't going to help. And so he was like, let's assume that this battery isn't any good. So I'll put another battery in, try it again. We tried it, and he was like, all right, well, that tells you, and then he was like, give me your other fob. So I gave him my other fob, the one that's actually working, and then he was like, you can have this battery for free. And so he gave me the other battery, because he had, at that point, used 2 brand new ones. And so he gave me the other battery for free in my fob, which I appreciated or whatever. And he was completely nice about everything. And he didn't give me a hard time, but I did have one time after when I first got that and my battery went dead, they didn't have me in the system, and it was so annoying. And I ended up having to go to the store because, I was out, and it's supposed to work at any Batteries Plus. And so I went to one that was close to where I was because I saw it, and I was like, oh, I need to get a new battery, so I'm going to go get it replaced. They didn't have me in their system, and so I had to go back to the one that I originally went to, and I took my receipt and was like, hey, for some reason I didn't get in the system, and so I was annoyed that time, but they took care of me. But my point is, I get sold this warranty by Mopar, and at first I was thinking in my head, like, this is not going to be covered by my warranty, this key fob. And I knew it was going to be at least a couple $100, and I definitely wasn't looking forward to spending a couple $100 on a key fob. But I went ahead and called Mopar anyway and asked them, and it turned out that the particular warranty that I bought does actually cover the key fob. And not only does it cover the key fob, because the deductible on this warranty is $100 if something goes wrong with your car, but the key fob is covered no deductible. And it would have been, I ended up seeing what it would have been, because at first they were trying to kind of jack me, but it was $264 that it would have been for them to give me the new key fob and program it. So anyway, here's where we get to the annoying part, right? Because Mopar says it's covered. Great. They say, do you want me to send you a copy of your plan, which they were supposed to have already sent me, but I forgot that I was supposed to get that, and apparently they didn't have my email address right. And so it never came through, because I was going through my emails trying to find it before I had even called them so I could just read it on my own. And I remember the guy telling me, I'm going to send you an email after we get off the phone, right after we get off the phone, and stuff like that. And I knew that I was going through Mopar, so I wasn't worried about it being a scam or any, but as far as the things he told me that it was supposed to take care of, to me, that's the most important stuff, like my actual car itself. It never occurred to me that a key fob could go dead. I never had that happen. Yeah, a key fob needing batteries, cool. But as far as, it just never occurred to me that this circuit board could go bad in a key fob. But so here we are. I get that straightened out. Then I call the dealership, which is the dealership that I bought my car from, because I bought it here in Arizona. And I call that particular dealership. I make an appointment. I tell them that I need to get a key fob. I explain the situation, that I have the warranty from Mopar, and I tell them that, you know, it's my spare key. And so, like, obviously I'm able to get around for now, because they told me that it was going to be like 2 weeks because they didn't have key fobs for my car in stock. So I'm like, okay, cool, no problem, you know. So we have this whole conversation, and I tell them, do you need my actual plan right now, as far as my information for my plan, or is that something that you guys have already have on record, or how exactly does that work out? And the lady tells me that this particular guy is going to be in charge of me, whatever, and that just to go ahead and bring it up with him, you know, that she would put it in, but that, you know, in the system, that it was that was my case, but that, you know, I would have to discuss the particulars with him. So at this point, I kind of panicked a little bit, you know, because I'm like, what if Mopar was wrong and now I'm going to have to pay for this? Because one of my friends hit me up and we were talking about it, and she was like, I had to pay a lot to get my key fob replaced. And so I was like panicking a little, you know, where I was just like, oh no, what if this ends up being ridiculous? Because at that point I had no idea. I didn't even know the $264. She said it was a lot. And my friend, this particular friend, she's not at all, I'll put it this way, she's not a very frugal person. And she tends to be a bit on the decadent side in the way that she does things. So, and borderline bougie. And I don't say that at all in a bad way. It's, you know, it's nice. And so when she says something's a lot of money, I figure it's going to be something that would make anybody a little bit like, wow, that's annoying. And, you know, $264, even that. But I thought it could be even more in certain cases. It could be as much as $600 for certain cars. So anyway, so I end up getting the email and stuff like that, and I see that it's fully covered. I see that it's no deductible, because to tell you the truth, even $100 would piss me off to replace that key fob. I would have done it because that's the deal. It's a deductible and it's less expensive than whatever else, but at the same time it would have been annoying. But I was especially relieved that, you know, it was taken care of. And so, you know, I get there, because my appointment was for 2:30, and like I said, they had to schedule me like 2 weeks out. And I get there, and immediately I'm told that the guy that's supposed to be handling me is in a meeting. And so it's going to be a little bit, but instead they're going to get this other guy to handle my case. And I'm sort of like, I don't even know this guy. I'm not committed to him in any way. Just give me whoever's free and can handle my situation. I don't care if the person that you have helping me out is not the same person you told me it was going to be on the phone. I haven't seen a picture of him. It's not like I'm in love with him and I feel like now you guys are catfishing me and I was supposed to go on a date with the other guy and now you set me up with this dud. Whoever can get the job done is who I'm going to go with. I am not at all concerned with any kind of continuity in this situation. I don't need the name to match. Why don't you do this? Just tell me this other guy that you have helping me out is the other guy. I won't know the difference. Let's just do that if it makes you feel better. But whatever you have to do, just let's get me out of here is the way I'm feeling. But, you know, you got to be nice. And so I'm being completely cool. Oh, yeah, fine. No problem. No problem. You know, going along with everything she says. So this guy comes over and I explained to him my situation and he was like, oh yeah, no, that's not the way that warranty works. It's actually, since you have a working key, your warranty does not kick in because this is only to replace it if that's the only key that you have. And in my head, I'm like, I read the policy itself. Once the lady sent it over to me, because then it actually matters. If you just send me stuff, a lot of times I just let it sit there until I actually need it. But once I actually need something, then I'm going to go through and read it. So I actually read where it actually says, technically I can get 3 of them within the lifetime of the warranty, all zero deductible. You know, they just give it to me. It's just the way it works. Really, I can lose one if I remember exactly what I read, and they'll still give me another one. So it is what it is. You know, just give me my fob. And also, if you were going to try to pull this, or if this was legitimately the case, you've had 2 weeks to get a hold of me and say this. So I'm not doing that with you right now. You know, and I'm trying to tell him that in not so many words and be as polite as I can and just be like, oh no, yeah, I read the policy. I know what it is that's supposed to happen today. As far as what I'm supposed to be doing right now, I'm just supposed to be picking up a key fob. Well, technically you guys have to program it for me, and I'm out of here. Like that's all this is supposed to be. Yeah, well, the thing is, and I was like, the thing is, I just need to talk to a manager. Whoever your manager is, that's who I need to talk to. And then he was like, well, what I can do for you, and I was like, what you can do for me is get the manager. That's all you can do for me is get the manager. And then that's when, miraculously, the guy that's supposed to be handling my case comes over, and he starts trying to talk to me. And he was like, yeah, we'll look into your warranty. And I was like... There's a part of me that wanted to like completely go off and just be like, I'm sure you guys deal with these all day. Maybe not fob specifically, but I'm sure you guys are aware of, I have the Mopar warranty. I'm sure you guys are aware that I'm not lying to you guys. And this is a lot easier for you guys can look this up without even having to talk to me about it. If you're not trying to pull something silly. This is what I'm thinking in my head. Because the truth is, let's say, for argument's sake, that they weren't familiar with this particular warranty or this particular part of the warranty. What they can do is just take my word for it. That's not the end of the statement, because I'm not thinking that they're just supposed to go off what I say. I understand that if they don't do things the right way, then they end up having to cover the cost. They get in trouble, whatever. But if you let me finish what I'm trying to say, I don't know why you guys are trying to argue with me. I don't know why you're trying to interrupt me right now. I'm trying to finish my statement, and you guys right away jump in, and you're like, oh yeah, they're supposed to just try. That wasn't the full statement, you guys. That wasn't all I was saying. But if I can finish, and you guys aren't going to argue with me and overtalk me again like you just did, which I wish you would stop doing. We've talked about this other weeks, I'm sure. But what they could have done was just pretended to take my word for it and been like, okay, yeah. Let me look into that really quick, or give me just a second, because I got to make sure I do everything the right way on my end. They could have walked away from me, jumped on the computer and checked it out and verified what I was saying without ever bugging me with I'm not sure if that's the way it works or whatever. But, you know, there's always some way that they want to actually get money from you rather than having to honor your warranty. It's just the way it works with all of these types of things. And I'm saying that you can do that, but not with me. So let's do what we have to do and scoop me out of here. And so when the other guy comes up to rescue me, and he starts trying to give me a similar song and dance, how they need to look into whatever. I was just like, if you want, I can pull it up on my phone right now and show you guys what it is I'm talking about. But really, at this point, I just want to talk to a manager. I don't want to continue to discuss this. And in my head, what I was thinking, because I didn't get as sassy with them as I can, because anybody that knows me knows I can be very sassy at points. And yeah, I am kind of proud of it, to tell you the truth. It comes in handy when I really need it. But in my head, what I was thinking is exactly what you guys sold me on in order to make me buy this or get me to buy this service, this warranty, is the fact that I would have zero headaches if anything ever went wrong with any part of my car. And that's why I went with it, because I was sold on the idea of having no headaches. No headaches includes you guys are not trying to pull any kind of bullshit. You guys are not trying to sell me anything. You guys are not trying to, whatever it is you're doing right now is headache. So if what I was sold on is no headache, and right now I'm getting headache, and on that particular day, because I had been editing a video, I'd only slept 2 hours before my 2:30 p.m. appointment. I was able to sleep until 1:30, and then I had to get up and get going so I could be over there on time. And so I really was not in the mood for anybody's shit. So when the second guy tried to, his rigmarole, I was just like, yeah, I just need to speak with the manager. That's all I need right now. I don't want to talk to anybody else about anything. I don't want to hear anything else about anything. I don't want to debate anything. I just want to speak with the manager. And so then the manager came over, and I fully let him know I was in the mood to snitch on everybody, because when he came up to me, he was like, who's handling you? I was like, so-and-so was supposed to be handling me, but he was in a meeting. And then the manager was like, okay, well, nobody should have been in a meeting, because I was in a manager's meeting and nobody except for other managers were in that meeting. So I don't know why you were told your person was in a meeting. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know why either, but that lady over there is the one that told me that he was in a meeting, so they had that guy over there handling me, and then that guy told me, and so I reiterated to him what had gone on, and them trying to debate me on my warranty, which I had already called Mopar, and I told him all of this. I already called Mopar, I know that this, and I've seen it myself, and I know it's supposed to be covered, and so I don't really know what's going on right now. And he was like, well, they have to program the key fob as well. And I was like, yeah, and that's what I was here for at 2:30, was to just get my key fob programmed, pick up my key fob, and be out of here. Now, not only was the guy late for my appointment, but on top of it, I'm being told that I could possibly have to pay for something. And before they were able to check out my car, I had to sign a thing that said basically I was on the hook for the $264 if they didn't. And that was them, that was the point where, because, between getting the manager, he was like, yeah, in order for them to do your car and stuff like that, we need you to sign this particular thing. And I was like, that says $264. And he was like, yeah, you won't have to pay that either way. He was like, but you have to sign this waiver in order to. And so he was like, if you don't want to sign it, if you really don't feel comfortable signing it, you can just put a line through it. He was like, that'll work too. So I just put a line through it and was like, I'm sure they'll know that that's some sort of protest since it's not my actual signature. And, because if this is what it's going to be, because there's no way at this point, especially when I know it's covered, that I'm paying $264. That's just not going to be an actual thing. So if you end up pulling something, my thinking is, if you end up pulling something where you're trying to say that I have to pay this $264, I'm now committed to that. No, I'm not. You can 100% keep that key fob. You give me the broken key fob or the one that's fried, as well as my working key fob, will be on our way. You're not giving me this key fob or selling me this key fob for $264. But so that's why I did the thing. And so I told the guy, I was like, yeah, they had me sign a thing that said I would pay $264, or that would be the actual fee for it. And none of this is supposed to be happening. So I don't really know why my time is being wasted right now, but I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to this. And I need to get back to what it is I'm supposed to be doing today, instead of here arguing something that I really shouldn't be arguing in the first place. And so, when he asked me, about that particular part, and was like, okay, I don't know why you got told. And I was like, that girl over there told me that my guy's supposed to be in a meeting. And so they had me talking to this guy. And then the guy just was like, okay. And then he went to the computer. And then he, because he was like, come back with me. And so he went to the computer right in front of me. And then he told the two guys I had been dealing with right before, he was like, yeah, he's just supposed to get his key fob taken care of. So let's get him his key fob. Let's get him out of here. There's no charge on this. It's part of the warranty. So, but I find myself having to do that kind of stuff more and more lately, where people just keep trying to rip us off. And I'm not really sure why, when this is what they sell us on. You're the one selling this no headache service, and then it's not no headaches. And so I've decided, because back in the day when I first got my car, back in the day, it was like 2 years ago, but when I first got my car, it was, I had an incident with them on that as well. And that was about, like, you know, they hadn't shown me certain features on my car, and there was a guy that's specifically in charge of that. Like, that's what his job is. And the other thing I've noticed that people are doing now is they're trying to ask you to give them Google reviews when they haven't done anything. And that's one of the things that guy did with me when I first bought my car. Was he was like, I'm so-and-so, I'm supposed to show you about your car, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm asking him questions about my car, and at a point, he just decides that he's done telling me about my car. He was like, yeah, pretty much all of that you can figure out yourself. And this is literally the way he's talking to me. He's like, yeah, pretty much all of that you can figure out yourself. And so then we end up running into problems because I didn't know, because I had like a turnkey Honda before. I didn't have, like, you know, and he had shown me the remote start, but I didn't know exactly how that worked, and, you know, and that your ignition doesn't start until your USB ports and stuff like that don't technically start up until after you've hit the button on your what's it called? And also your gear shift won't work. It's like an anti-theft thing. So if you remote start your car, you actually have to get in the car. It has to sense the fob, and you have to press the button in order for it to start up, or, you know, for everything to work the way it needs to work. And I didn't know that, you know, so I got in my car and didn't know that I had to push that button after doing remote start. And so I'm trying to shift it into reverse, and it will not shift. And also my USB isn't, and I thought my car is going haywire right now and it doesn't work. And, you know, like, I got a crappy car, it doesn't work like it's supposed to. I love the color of my car, I love everything about my car. It was exactly what I wanted, and I knew it was too good to be true. But these are all the thoughts that ran through my head. And so I ended up having to call them, and then that's when I figured it out. And I was very annoyed because, like I said, the guy that was supposed to be in charge of showing me that didn't show me something that simple and didn't answer any of my other questions. And so I went in for a meeting with them because I was very upset about that. And I don't, like, I'm not trying to come off as a Karen, but my car was not cheap, you know, and it was like one of those situations where I know everybody's in such a hurry to just get a good Google review, but not really do a job. And it would be very simple for you to teach me these very basic things that to you may not seem like anybody should not know them, but my Honda, which was the car I had before, just had a key. Like, that's the way it worked. I didn't know anything about remote start. I didn't know anything about any of the features that came with my car. And there's certain features that I still don't know and still will never know, probably, because I won't ever need them. And who cares about those? But, like, the most basic things, but you want to jump out of my car and be like, make sure you leave me a Google review. My name's such and such, and here's my, let me send you a text message with the link so that you can go directly to Google reviews and let them know what a great job I did. And when I just got my most, because, you know, I bought a new iPhone a couple weeks back, and the guy that was handling my situation there was asking me to leave a Google review, and it was like, okay, I haven't even got my phone yet. So I don't even know that you're going to do things. And this may sound ridiculous to people, but this is how much people will cheat you. And they all try to get over, and they're reputable companies, supposedly. I'm dealing with AT&T directly. I'm dealing with the Dodge dealership. It's not like I'm dealing with the Jalopy Jungle. If you're from Phoenix, you know, you know. But there is a place called the Jalopy Jungle, like downtown, that sells. It's on Van Buren, which has a reputation of its own. But it's like, what is it? It's like 7th Street, maybe 16th Street, and Van Buren, the Jalopy Jungle. And, you know, they sell, like, nothing against the Jalopy Jungle. I've had friends buy cars from the Jalopy Jungle, but it's the Jalopy Jungle. You know, you're going to go there and buy a jalopy, and it's the jungle. You know, and so... if I had bought my car from the Jalopy Jungle, I could understand this kind of treatment, but I'm at the actual Dodge dealership. And, you know, because they stopped making the Charger, now they want to buy my car from me, which that was something that they always try to offer. You know, the dealership just keeps hitting me up and being like, you know, we want to buy your particular car. But that's a scam too, because, you know, they want to buy your car so that you will get a more expensive, newer Dodge, whichever model is they're trying to push. Then they have you on a whole different thing, you know, like, so I'm not right now, to tell you the truth, I'm just trying to absolutely maximize every single thing to do with my life. And so I'm not really thinking about upgrading anything or changing anything or adding any new factors to anything. You know, so like, I just need everybody to do what it is that they're supposed to do, what it is I'm paying for. And outside of that, we really should have no real run-ins or situations. You know, like, that's really the way I feel about this, is that like, I'm not going to put up with other people not doing what they're supposed to do and making my life more difficult, because I've gotten to a point where I'm not even putting up with that myself anymore. And that's, I think, why I was so proud of myself for grounding myself and actually making myself get rid of that legal, you know, pad and get rid of all those receipts. The ones that I needed to get rid of, I got rid of, and the ones that need to be filed have been filed. And I ended up filing the other stuff, like I said. And I'm really proud of what it is I'm doing right now. And so, like I said, I just can't have these people, I can't allow these people to fall short on me, because, like, I'm finally learning not to do that myself. And it's not like I've been a horrible offender towards myself on those kinds of things and I'm just always screwing myself over. And no, you know, I'll tell you exactly what I am. I'm a person that pulls it together last minute. That's what I really am. I'm a person that everything looks like it's gonna fall apart, or sometimes we get to that, like, right before the cliff, and then I pull it together and I do everything the way that I'm supposed to and end up getting, I have to admit, kind of a fabulous result. But it's not lost on me that if I were more organized, if I can get a really great result by just showing up at the last minute, sometimes I think to myself, what could you do with actual planning? What could you do if you were actually on top of everything? And I told you guys not too long ago on an episode, I want to be a machine in every aspect of my life. I've done it in different aspects of my life at different times. You know, like, there have been times when I've been doing stand-up and I've just been a machine about doing stand-up. There have been times when I've been going to the gym the way that I need to and really working my body and diet dialed in and doing everything that I'm supposed to do, and an absolute machine at that as well. I've done those things at once, you know, where I've been super worked out and also making it to the gym like I'm supposed to, you know. And there were times when, like, now I look back on it and I was like, well, the only thing that I wasn't doing right in my life at that time was I wasn't spending quite as much time with Bijou as I should have been. And it's my fault for not noticing, because Bijou was always such a great dog and so self-sufficient and so independent that when I look back on it, I was like, was she really, or did she just get used to me being gone as much as I needed to be gone? And she was just a little soldier and was able to make it work. And so I mean, you know, there's nothing you can do about that. I'm not going to act like I feel particularly bad about it, because Bijou was the first dog I ever had as an adult, you know, and so I didn't know how to take care of a dog, and nobody really, I mean, Chris Rubio helped me out, like told me a lot of things about dogs or whatever, but you know, he has a super busy life too. And so, you know, and he also has a wife to help him out, you know, so she's able to take care of the dogs when he's busy or there's stuff like that. But, you know, they're like, so I don't want to make that mistake with baby girl, you know, I don't want her to not feel like she sees me enough for whatever, you know? And so there's that too. And like, you know, like I said, just not ever feeling, because, you know, when you're doing things like that, yeah, it feels pretty great when last minute you make it all happen. You know, you last minute you show up and you're like, okay, I've done everything the way that I need to do it, and it's a great result. So everybody shut up. I don't want anybody to talk to me crazy. I don't want you to act like you know more than me. I don't want you to act like I should do it any differently than I've done it, because clearly I have aced the test. But what if I were able to do it without the stress leading up to it? And what if that were able to free me up to be even better at other things? And then when last minute things happen, it wouldn't seem like a big deal. Or if I had to add extra things on top of things, then it wouldn't, because, you know, I just not too long ago, and I realize that I'm very blessed for this, but like maybe 2 weeks ago, I had maybe a day or two where I dealt with actual anxiety for the first time in my life. And that's why I say I'm very blessed to finally at this point in my life, because, you know, I have friends that have been dealing with anxiety and taking medication for it even. You know, different friends have it to different degrees. And the friends that I know that are on anxiety medication, they deal with actual anxiety all the time, and, you know, have been for years and years and years, which I have opinions on that, but whatever, we're not going to get into that right now. But what I'm trying to get at is, I think to myself, if my chicken's ready, but maybe if I do everything the right way that I'm supposed to do it, or the right way, or with as much planning as I could possibly do it at, maybe I can be a beast on every level. And if not, then I'll probably still be doing things a lot better than I've been doing them so far, and I will probably be super impressed with myself and my results, even if I'm not able to, in the end, be perfect at everything. But if I can be at least working to my maximum potential, then I don't see how that could ever be a bad thing. And it's something that I definitely should strive for. And it's something that is within my control, because it's my maximum potential. Stay unbothered.